In 1968, a passerby stumbled across the decomposing body of a young woman. Despite the efforts of police at the time, limited technology meant that she was never identified, and she spent decades known only as Tent Girl. However, in the 1990s, a young man named Todd Matthews learned of her case and became determined to restore her name. Utilizing the newly emerging internet, Todd worked with fellow sleuths to begin raising awareness of her case, hoping that one day the right people would see it. And one day they did. Join us for today's episode as we examine the case of Barbara Ann Hackman and how one internet sleuth solved an impossible 30-year mystery. Tent Girl. The date was May 17th, 1968, when Wilbur Riddle, a well digger, was exploring a wooded area on the side of US Route 25 near Georgetown, Kentucky, while looking for glass telephone pole insulators. As he trudged through the grass and dirt, he came across something odd. A piece of heavy green canvas tarpaulin which was wrapped around something and fixed with twine. Curious, Wilbur decided to inspect the bundle a little more closely, and he nudged it with his foot to try and get a feel for what was inside. But this innocuous movement sent the wrapped tarp rolling down a 30-foot embankment nearby, causing the fabric to unwind and revealing what it contained. A human body. Alarmed, Wilbur set off for the nearest gas station, where he contacted the local sheriff's department. Law enforcement arrived on the scene a short time later, cutting away the rest of the tarp and confirming that, indeed, Wilbur had come across a corpse. The victim was badly decomposed, with a medical expert placing her death between 2 and 3 weeks prior, and it was determined that she was likely a young, white female, possibly a teenager. Remnants of short brown hair clung to her scalp. For weeks, investigators searched for the girl's identity. They looked for relevant missing persons reports and appealed for help from the public, but no concrete leads were ever established. Her name and that of her killer remained a mystery, and she was buried in Georgetown Cemetery in 1971, having been dubbed Tent Girl by the local media who reported her story. A local company donated a headstone for her final resting place. It was inscribed, "Tent Girl, found May 17, 1968, on US Highway 25N, died about April 26th to May 3rd, 1968, age about 16 to 19 years, height 5 feet 1 inch, weight 110 to 115 pounds, reddish brown hair, unidentified." A sketch of the victim that had been circulated by the police was also included. For decades, visitors would stop by her grave, leaving flowers and lit candles, remembering the unknown girl with no one to grieve her. Still, the case remained dormant. Todd Matthews. James Todd Matthews, best known as simply Todd, was born on May 3, 1970, in Livingston, Tennessee. He was raised by 2 loving parents and excelled in school, graduating from Livingston Academy in 1988. Though he had 2 siblings, a brother named Greg and a sister named Sue Ann, they both sadly passed away when they were infants. Those who knew Todd described him as generous, funny, and inspiring. He was the type of person who, once he started something, was committed to seeing it through, whether it was helping a friend or pursuing a creative project. He enjoyed art, cooking, gardening, and spending time with his family. But most people on the internet know Todd for his dedication to helping the missing and the deceased. His journey began when he married the daughter of Wilbur Riddle just after graduating from high school. Wilbur told Todd the story of the Jane Doe he'd discovered back in the late 1960s, a young woman who'd been wrapped up in tarp and dumped in a desolate area with no remorse. The case had stuck with Wilbur for decades, and he continued to think about her even 2 decades later. Todd would later speak to Vice about how he took up Tent Girl's case, stating, "I first heard of the story The Tent Girl in 1987. It was near Halloween, so we were telling ghost stories. She, his wife, explained how her father had found a body on the side of the road, wrapped in a canvas tent, and how a grave had been created with her image on it. No name, just Tent Girl. That stuck with me." Intrigued by the mystery and motivated by a desire to help find answers and ease the worries of Wilbur and any family members Tent Girl might have, Todd began looking into the case. He recalled, "I think it was really obsessive right from the get-go. The process of trying to find out who she was immediately began. Using the World Wide Web, which was only established in 1993, he started scouring through missing persons records and those of unidentified descendants on message boards and public databases, looking to find even the smallest of clues to help move the case forward. He also combed through newspaper and magazine articles, no mean feat considering everything was purely hard copies then, as there were no archived internet versions at the time. In 1997, he even set up his own website dedicated to the mystery of Tent Girl, including all the information he'd gathered so far, hoping to raise awareness of her case. Todd began to theorize that if he could only get her sketch and details in front of the right people, then he would be able to find answers. Todd visited Tent Girl's grave and interviewed relevant people, including his own father-in-law, Wilbur, who described how he remembered things a little differently to the way most articles wrote about the crime. Todd stated, "The newspaper described her pretty much as a child, but he said he actually saw her and he felt that she was possibly older." Todd eventually became so engrossed in the case, so consumed by it, that he began to have vivid dreams of the unknown woman. He had started pursuing the case in his late teens, and for nearly 10 years he remained dedicated. He recalled, "By this point in time, it was having an effect on my marriage, racking up telephone bills that were difficult to pay, arguments that were difficult to win, rationalizing doing this with no results." He added, "At what point do you say enough's enough? It was more than an obsession, it felt like an obligation." Eventually, though, a breakthrough came. One night in 1998, while the rest of the family slept, Todd went to his office to continue working on the case and came across an interesting post on a missing persons website. Quote, "I did find a note where a lady in Arkansas was looking for her missing sister, last known to be in Lexington, Kentucky, a very short distance away, in December of 1967. It was very clear at the time that that's who I was looking for." The family noted that their missing loved one had been married at the time of her disappearance. She had been living with her husband and infant daughter just 15 miles from Georgetown. Their post prompted Todd to reach out, sending them details of Tent Girl. The response he received was positive. The family believed that Tent Girl was their missing relative, Barbara Ann Hackman, noting the similarities in the gap between their front teeth, their builds and hairstyles, and their well-manicured nails. Though Tent Girl had been found naked, diaper and cloth had been recovered from the scene, which would match up with the fact that Barbara had a young child. A solved mystery. Todd contacted the authorities shortly afterwards, and the police arranged for the body of Tent Girl to be exhumed so that a DNA sample could be extracted. A positive identification was made on April 26, 1998. Barbara Ann Hackman was 24 at the time of her death, and was survived by 3 siblings, Rosemary Westbrook, Jan Daigle, and Mary Copeland. Additionally, her infant daughter was traced to Ohio. She was now a grown woman, married with her own children. As for Barbara's husband, George Earl Taylor, he was a carnival worker who died from cancer in 1987. He told the family before his death that he hadn't seen Barbara in years, alleging that she left him for another man, and he never reported her missing. Though it has never been conclusively proven that Taylor killed his wife, the prominent theory in her case is that he did, with police even considering him the prime suspect. As a result, when Barbara's family reburied her body at Georgetown Cemetery, they opted to keep his surname off the headstone. Many were stunned that the 30-year-old case finally had answers, with Todd noting, "I had a lot of people, even police, say it would never be solved." Following the closure of the case, Todd continued to pursue his interest in unsolved mysteries, hoping to give a voice to the missing and the deceased. He co-founded the non-profit organization The Doe Network and assisted in the creation of EDAN, or Everyone Deserves a Name, an organization of volunteer artists and sculptors who take time out of their schedules to create sketches and facial reconstructions of the unidentified. Todd told Vice, "After the resolution of the Tent Girl case, the cyber community lit up. I heard from missing person advocates from all over the world, and I helped in the development of the first database for missing and unidentified persons." He added, "I was blinded by trying to find what I needed that I didn't realize that some foundational work was being done. That time I spent wasn't just time wasted. There was success in what I was trying to do, and in fact, it left a footprint. It repurposed the use of the internet." Tragically, Todd passed away unexpectedly on January 3rd, 2024, at his home in Livingston, Tennessee. He was just 53 years old. Although he has passed, what he did for not just the sleuthing community or the family of Barbara Ann Hackerman, but for all of the missing and unidentified persons out there, will not be forgotten. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.